So Algebra 2, Part 2. This is Section 871, which is finding min and max values on a parabola. So actually, everything in this section you already know how to do. We're just talking about it a little differently and focusing on it just in this section. So by the end of this, you should be able to find the max or min value of a parabola. And the max or min value is the exact same thing as the y-coordinate of its vertex. So all we're doing is finding the y-coordinate of the vertex of a parabola. And so the key here is just to know, you have to know whether or not you're finding your min value, your max value, and how you label these things. And then also just referring to it with different terminology. So you know that parabolas that open up, so if we open up, we look like this, and our vertex is down here, and so if it's down there, well, then that's a min. And this is going to have a positive a term, right? So if we write it out algebraically, it could look something like y is ax squared plus bx plus c. And so that's the algebraic key that you open up and you have a min, is that your a term is positive. Okay, and then if we flip this around and we open down, then we look like this, and our vertex is up here, and we have a max. And so writing this out algebraically, it's y equals a negative ax squared plus bx plus c. And so then for this one, your a term is going to be negative. All right, so you have a negative a term. So those are the algebraic keys to look for whether or not your a term is positive or negative, okay? So to find the min or max value of a quadratic equation, we do it the same way we find a vertex. So we'll start off by finding the x-coordinate of our vertex, and then we'll take that, we'll plug it in. We'll plug it in for x, and then we'll evaluate that function. We'll evaluate the function at that value to find y. And so if you don't quite remember how to find the x-coordinate of the vertex, well, we have our formula for that, which is just negative b over 2a. Okay, so we'll just run through the classwork, and we're going to go ahead and find all of those in the classwork. All right. So for these functions, we want to find the min or max value of these quadratic functions. So we'll start off by finding the x-coordinate of the vertex. So my x of the vertex, quick refresher, will be negative b over 2a. And so for this first function, it's going to be a negative 6 over 2 times 1, which is going to be negative 6 over 2, which simplifies to negative 3, okay? And then, so that's the x of our vertex. That's not the max or the min value of the vertex, but that's what we need to do to go ahead and find our y of our vertex. So we're going to go ahead and plug this back in. So we'll be doing f of negative 3, so negative 3 squared plus 6 times negative 3 plus 8. So that'll be 9 minus 18 plus 8. All right, so 9 minus 18 will have a negative 9 plus 8, which is negative 1. Now, this function, we see we have a positive a value, so that means we're going to be opening up, so that means we'll have a min. So then we can say for number 1, our min value is negative 1. Okay, so that's the answer for number 1. So we'll run through the same process for number 2. So to find the x of the vertex, we're going to do negative b over 2a, which is going to be negative 2 over 2 times 1, which is going to simplify to negative 2 over 2, which is just negative 1. Okay, so now we're going to do f of negative 1, which is going to be negative 1, the whole thing squared, plus 2 times negative 1 minus 3. So I'm just taking the x-coordinate that I just found and plugging it back in for x. So when I run through this, I get 1 minus 2 minus 3, which is going to be negative 1 minus 3, which is negative 4. So then we see that, again, we have a parabola that is opening up, okay? And so we're going to have a min value, and our min is going to be negative 4. So we can say the min value is negative 4. All right, going on to number 3. So for number 3, again, we'll start off by finding the x of the vertex. So remember, we do negative b over 2a. So we'll have negative 8 over 2 times negative 2, which is going to simplify to negative 8 over negative 4, which is a positive 2. So that's the x of the vertex. So we'll plug that back in to find our y. So I'll do f of 2, which is going to be negative 2 times 2 squared plus 8 times 2 plus 5. So let's see, that's negative 2 times 4 plus 16 plus 5. So negative 8 plus 16 plus 5. So that will be a positive 8 plus 5, which is 13. So this parabola that we were given for number 3, it's got a negative a value, so that means it's going to open down. It'll look like that, right? So our vertex is going to be a max. So we'll have a max, and that max value is going to be 13. Okay. So going on to number 4, we'll find the x of our vertex, which is going to be negative b over 2a. So we'll have a negative 2 over 2 times negative 1, which is going to be 2 over negative 2, which is negative 1. So we'll go ahead and plug that in. So I'll have f of negative 1 is negative. Well, and see, the reason why I've got that negative there is because I have a negative to begin the problem with. So I've got that negative out in front, and then I have to plug in negative 1 for x. So I've got that other negative there. Okay, and then I have minus 2 times negative 1 plus 1. So we've got a lot of negatives to be careful with. When we take this negative 1 and square it, that's going to become a positive 1. And then we already have that negative that was at the beginning of the function out in front. This double negative here will turn into a positive, so that'll be plus 2 plus 1. Okay, so now we have negative 1 plus 2 plus 1, which is just going to be, let's see, that'll be 1 plus 1, which is 2. Okay, so this function, we've got a negative a term, so that means we open down, so we have a max. So we can say our max is 2. All right, so the next few questions just kind of ask some questions about these max or min values, and you don't have to do as much algebra. So some of these questions, hopefully you can just answer them from the information that's given to you. So for number 5, do the following functions have min or max values? So to do these, you're just going to look at the a terms, okay? So remember, just quick review, let's see, for if we have a positive a, we open up and we have a min. If we have a negative a, we open down and we have a max, okay? So for part A right here, we've got a negative, so this is going to have a max value. Same thing for part C. That'll have a max. And then part B, you can see that we have a positive a value, a positive 2 right there. So then that parabola or that quadratic function will have a min value. For number 6, they say the vertex of a parabola that opens up is negative 4, 7. Okay, so if we open up, we look like this. So that means our vertex is going to be our min. So the question asks, does the function have a max or a min value? Okay, well, the first answer to that is just going to be min. And then they want to know, what is the max or min value? So remember, the max or min value is always the same thing as the y of the vertex. So we can just go back to the given information from the beginning of the problem, and so your min value is going to be 7. And so number 7 is the same type of problem. So this parabola opens down, so we look like that, okay? So that means we're going to have a max. And so what is the max or min value of the function? Well, remember the y of our vertex, so we're going to be -5. So the answer to number 7 is a max, and it's -5. So that's it for 871. So hopefully you know enough to go ahead and try the homework on your own.